Hello, everybody. Welcome in. It is Friday. Front Office Friday is here.
Front Office Friday!
Keith is very excited for Front Office Friday. Oh my, this is going to be a lot of fun. Welcome in, those of you who are joining us. Hopefully, if you're at work, you have found a way to fool your boss into thinking you're working and you're instead here talking NBA basketball with us.
One
I'm Trevor
AirPod
Lane.
trick, right?
That's
go.
right. You got to just pull up the hoodie.
Learning.
Lean on your head. Just put your head in your hand. Cover that earbud. Everything will be just fine. I'm Trevor Lane. You can find me on Twitter at Trevor_Lane. Joined by a very excited Keith Smith at Keith Smith NBA. Keith, gotta love Fridays, kick off the weekend, and this is great because we get to, rather than just do a rundown of all the topics around the NBA, it's the listeners and the viewers get to pretty much direct the show because your comments kind of tell us where to go and what to talk about.
Yeah, absolutely. And I apologize. They are cutting my grass right now. So if anybody picks that up in the background, hopefully you won't hear it too much. But, it's Florida. We cut grass all year round here. And today's the day that they're out there. But, yeah, this is your show. Front runners, this is your show. Let us know what you want to talk about, your questions, your thoughts, anything you want to put out there. You can drop them all in the chat, and we will start pulling from there and getting in everything. But we're super excited to have you all here with us today.
Somebody said Trevor looks clean and just out of the shower. That is accurate. That is, I had to make one of those difficult decisions. I was like, do I have time to shower before the show? And I went for it.
There you go. That a boy. I did not. I did not shower yet. I'm on one of those Fridays where everything I wanted to have done this morning hasn't even started yet. So I'm like, my whole day is thrown off. But yeah, look at that. I'm also a teacher, but today we have the day off for spring break. Spring break started here in Florida for us today.
Very
too.
nice.
So our daughter slept basically till lunchtime. So it is what it is.
See, mine is 6, so when she has the day off, she's still up at school time. Like it's a Saturday and she's up at 6 a.m. or 6:30 or whatever. And
you've got a few more years of that.
A few more years.
So
few more years. Yep. Yeah. All right, let me get into some of these questions. We already have some questions coming in. People are excited here. Matthew Harrison asks, do you think the NBA PA would make any issues they have with referees a CBA issue in terms of, could you legislate in some kind of way to file a complaint against an official beyond what currently exists? Any kind of way for players to make comments like what Fred VanVleet made, perhaps without getting hit with a $30,000 fine? What are you thinking there?
Yeah, I like the idea of that. There's a lot of stuff since Fred VanVleet's comments a couple nights ago have come out where other players have agreed with him. Marcus Smart basically said, hey, I'm not going to name names. Fred did a pretty good job of that. Yep. But I have the same issues where guys are, I feel like guys have personal issues with players. And then he said, and I have personal issues with a couple of referees myself. So no surprise, right? He's that kind of guy out there. But I wonder if what's going to happen with the NBA and this whole thing does this turn into, is there a more formalized system of, hey, we have a grievance with a specific official for a player or something like that? And I don't know that the NBPA pushes that issue, but I think that's something maybe the league does. And I think maybe it can be a two-way street where give officials the opportunity to say, hey, every time I officiate player X's game, we have a problem. And, we want to get into that side of it too. And I think anytime you open more avenues for communication, it improves your product. So hopefully that's how this will go down.
Yeah, agreed. And I think it's the kind of thing where, the NBA, they can't have players after every single game just blasting the officiating because then it turns into a whine fest and it will get bad very quickly. I understand why the fines are in place and all of that. But if there is a legitimate issue beyond just, hey, I'm mad we didn't win the game or I'm upset because this call didn't go my way. Look, humans are officiating these games. Mistakes will be made, right? That will happen. It's the nature of the beast. But if you feel like there is something that is consistent, that is happening every time you're dealing with a particular official, there should be some kind of system in place for players to be able to lodge a legitimate complaint, not just I'm upset right now in the moment because this referee is picking on me and doesn't like me and causes us to lose the game. But hey, over the last 3 months, this referee has been going after me, been calling me for a tech when I haven't even been talking to him, stuff like that. there needs to be an avenue to address that sort of thing, I think. I will say this though, Keith, I meant to bring this up on our show the other day. People get upset with NBA players for whining to the officials or being upset with the officials or being demonstrative or whatever. I don't really have a problem with being upset in the moment, but Keith, you and I both watch soccer. Thank God they don't have the referee makes a call and everybody from both teams surrounds him. It drives me insane why you have 10 players getting in the face of the official every single time they make any kind of a call. I don't know why they allow it in soccer, but thank God it is not a thing in the NBA. It is so annoying.
Yeah, I think people have this thought of there's an equivalent of a yellow card to a technical foul, and it's not entirely wrong, right? Like that's kind of close, but I think you would have to start giving out yellow cards at a much higher rate, because if you got in the referee's face in the NBA the way the soccer players do, you'd be guys would be getting thrown out left and right. So for sure, it's a little bit of a different situation there with that. But yeah, no, that is true too. It's funny on that. Just we'll get right back to the NBA, but we laugh all the time because my daughter and all the girls on her soccer team, they're like, anytime you watch men play soccer, all they do is roll around and cry on the ground all the time. Like, what? Why? Like, why can't they just play? So it's kind of funny. My favorite thing is whether it's men's or women's soccer, they're hurt until it's like, oh, we won the ball back. Like now,
yeah, and then they're fine.
Right. Yep. Now I can play.
Yeah, that is annoying. See, when I played, I just used to hit those guys harder. But that was also a different era, and we can get away with that. I picked up a few cards every now and then, but that kind of stuff drove me crazy. Okay, enough soccer. Two nice guys for you. Said, is Lakers Nation a front office show looking for an intern at all? I don't think off the top of my head. Not something that we've been considering at the moment. You can always send along. My email is on my Twitter account. You guys can send along. You have a resume or something, but nothing that we're actively looking for at the moment. Falcon Gunner, is Wemby the most untouchable asset in the NBA? So essentially the number one pick. With that, I'd have to say no, right? He hasn't played an NBA game.
Who is then?
I mean, like if you said, hey, you can have the number one pick, or you can have Giannis, or you can have Luka, or you can have Jokic, you're taking those guys over that, right? The known commodity, right? Even though Wembanyama is cost controlled as a number one pick, you're going to pay a lot less for him, but he hasn't set foot on an NBA floor. I mean, Greg Oden was supposed to be a sure thing too, right?
Yeah. Did you read Side Marin Fader's piece on him on the Ringer this week? I don't know if you saw that. It was really, really good. She basically where he's at in life right now as an assistant coach for the Butler Bulldogs, and really, really good article. And he takes ownership for a lot of the stuff that went wrong. Not so much in his career, because a lot of that was injury related, but in the way he handled things after that. So highly recommended that. I will say, on the Wembanyama thing, yeah, give Giannis, Luka. I'm going to forget guys because I'm doing it off the top of my head. Joel Embiid, Jason Tatum. Those guys are probably all more untouchable. But I think Wembanyama would be much higher on the list, despite the fact we've never seen him play, than some people would recognize and probably would be comfortable with. I think that is I feel pretty solid in saying that. I think he'd be pretty high on that list from there.
Yeah, I mean, let's put it this way: whoever gets the number one pick this year, they're not trading it.
No,
it's not.
Yeah, there's not enough. There's nothing you could offer to do that unless it was Giannis, Luka, a guy like that, and that's not certainly not going to happen.
Even if, let's say let's say it's San Antonio, let's say, whoever it is, let's say it's Detroit. Like if you offer those teams Giannis or something, they're not prepared to build a contender. Like you just be getting into a situation where star player X is immediately upset because they don't have a team around them that's prepared to do anything, because those teams are not in that phase of their life cycle as a team, So
exactly.
I just don't think it's, obviously we're speaking hypothetically, but
sure. Yeah.
In anybody.
Yeah. There was a draft question that was thrown in the chat. I can't find it now, but I'll just answer it. Are we going to do a mock draft show? probably not. We're not the guys for that. We will talk draft stuff
Yep.
as we get closer to the draft. We will talk some draft prospects and the like and those kind of things. But a full mock draft, we don't spend enough time on watching these guys coming in because we're so focused on the NBA. But I will say I've been watching a ton of college basketball this week. I've been watching a ton of clips and things like that to prepare myself and get more in the know on these guys. But we're just not in a position where to do a full mock draft. Probably not something we'll do, but we'll react to all the draft news
Yep.
and all that stuff for sure as it comes.
And Sean Davis does do a lot, does pay attention to those kinds of players and stuff. So he'll hop on for some stuff to help us out. And he did that too during when we did our live show during the
And
draft last
nailed
year.
the Max Christie pick.
He did.
Yeah.
He was all over that pick. He got that one right. Senpai said, with all the recent injuries, by the way, whenever I read his new username, I always think of Dwight Schrute.
Yes.
And the poor performances in the All-Star game is the midseason tournament going to get scrapped? Personally, not a fan.
Nope.
I think it's got too much support behind it at this point.
Yep. Yeah, it's coming in. I think in some ways you'll see, I think they're going to give teams a little bit of leeway. I think we're turning this into front office soccer talk Friday. But you see they're very much modeling this off of European in-season soccer tournaments, which also exist in basketball outside of the NBA world as well. And one of the things that happens in those positions is teams don't always play their best guys in those in-season tournaments. They may be more focused on, all right, we're more focused on regular season games, and we use these as a chance to get developmental lineups in there. And then it may be, all right, you know what, now we're into the quarterfinals, semifinals. Now we're going to kind of bring in some of our main guys when we have a real chance to win. So I think you're going to see a lot more stuff like that. And it'll be a kind of a wink and a nod to teams to say, all right, you want to do a little load management here mid-season? And it's being called the mid-season tournament. Probably will hit more mid-season in terms of the regular season schedule, but it's still probably more of early season tournament. I think it'll come in the first third or so of the season is probably where it will land. But we're going to see how seriously teams take this very, very quickly, and some will take it more serious than others. And that's kind of what the NBA wants. They want to introduce another vehicle for different teams to kind of shine and step forward than the teams we know we're going to see in the postseason.
I think it's going to be evident really quickly whether teams care about it or not. And if we get to the midseason tournament and suddenly you've got Giannis and Tatum and LeBron and Jokic, like these guys all have, back pain or whatever, and they're sitting out of these games, that's going to be a bad look. And so I'm interested to see how the NBA is going to combat that. I know making them count for regular season games is something, but I mean, once you get into the latter stages of the tournament, what does that look like? But then I also don't mind the idea about, bringing in some international teams to participate at some point. Not saying it's something you throw in immediately, but it would be kind of fun just to.
I don't even have a problem if they want to say, hey, the couple top G League teams get a shot in this thing too. Maybe that's how you get it to 32 teams, right? Mm-hmm. And you can have and then a very even bracket and throw the top G League teams in, because it would be a lot of fun to say, like, all right, here come the Maine Celtics or the Sioux Falls Skyforce, and like, oh wow, they upset whatever it is, and those kind of things. I think there'll be a lot of interest in that too. Anything that makes it fun, because I know that's a draw for, at least in England, is they have one of their tournaments. It's open all the way to every level, and you get sometimes these 8th division teams playing Premier League teams and things like that.
Yeah, I mean, I think the only pushback I see is from NBA players, right? Like, where's the upside, right? Yeah. There is none. Like, if you beat the Sioux Falls Skyforce, who cares? You're supposed to beat them. If you lose, oh my gosh, that's the biggest story. You're getting destroyed on social. What's that?
Don't be cowards. Step up.
But look, I mean, babies. But really, like, how many guys like don't participate in the dunk contest and stuff because they don't want to risk that kind of situation, Well,
it's funny. Somebody said in the chat, David Sang said, we need a one-on-one tournament. That's exactly why we're never going to get one.
Yeah.
Because also one-on-one tournaments, I love Joel Embiid, but big men never do well in those things because they're so benefited to, the guard has basically the entire half court to use. So they just kind of run the big guy around until he's tired, and then they score. So that's where they kind of go.
That's also why we don't have the why they resisted the picking teams thing for the All-Star game for so long. And then, and now this year they completely obscured things by having the reserves picked first so that no one would ever know that Jaren Jackson Jr. was picked last. They want to make sure that nobody was able to know that. William Scott, do you think the front office will get Darvin to hire a former head coach? So hire like a former head coach as an assistant coach to provide that type of, I don't know, background, I guess, onto the bench. I don't think so. This was a talking point. There were a lot of discussions about this, that the Lakers front office with their previous head coaching hires, essentially they were reactionary. Luke Walton, they didn't agree with some of his assistant coaches. So they said, okay, next head coach, we want to say and who the assistant coaches are. I think it was a point of contention for Ty Lue. It's part of why, hey, Jason Kidd, Frank Vogel, if you want the job, Jason Kidd's going to be an assistant coach. And Kidd did a great job. I'm not saying there was an issue there, but it became a thing, and that's not the norm for NBA teams. Typically, if you hire a head coach, you let that coach pick their own assistants. And so there was a lot of pushback against that. And so then I think the Lakers went the other way, and they said, you know what, we'll go back in line with what is standard in the NBA. Darvin, we hire you. You're going to pick your staff and go from there. And I think that's the way it probably should be.
Yeah, I don't like when the front office gets too involved on the coaching side. Obviously, yes, they hire the coach and they're going to vet any of the assistants that the coach wants to bring in. Sure. And that's how it should be. But I also don't want the coaching side getting too involved in the player personnel matters. It's, they're two very separate jobs, two very different jobs to do well. So, hire the right people and then trust them to assemble the right folks around them. I kind of look at it as akin to, it'd be like Darvin Ham telling Rob Pelinka, like, hey, you got to hire this scout because I think he should be the guy scouting these college players and those kind of things. And that's not going to be how it goes. So it's now, yes, Rob Pelinka ultimately runs the entire basketball ops, but I don't think he's going to put that kind of pressure on him. And then the question you have to ask is who, right? Who's going to be out there that wants to do that? Because here's the other thing: a lot of former NBA coaches, they don't want to be assistant coaches; they want to be NBA coaches again, right? They want to be head coaches and those kind of things. So, we'll see. It also depends on if anybody leaves.
It's different from the NFL. Well, you see somebody who's a head coach, they get ousted, they pop up as an offensive coordinator somewhere else. They spend a few years there, they do well, then they get another opportunity to be a head coach again. NBA doesn't quite work in that same way. So that's something you have to factor in as well.
Yeah, absolutely. I want to say, I'm going to butcher your name, so I apologize. Aniket Mohan, hello from Singapore. Love the show. Stayed up late. That's awesome. And nice hat. Yeah, this is my my daughter's school. So this is her school's logo.
It is very stylish. Very stylish indeed.
Looks good. Big t-shirt, Billie Eilish.
I was doing a little late night shopping last night. I was looking at different hats and things like that. And I always have this battle because I always see hats that I like. And then I remind myself that I have a closet full of them and I don't need any more hats. And so I have to fight that internal struggle.
I have a pile that sits on our kitchen counter, much to my wife's chagrin, that I kind of
have that same pile.
Yep.
I have that same pile of hats sitting on our kitchen counter. Maybe that's just a thing that everybody,
didn't realize where they go. Maybe, probably most likely you and I are correct. And that's where they should be.
I think so. Yeah, I agree. I agree that we are correct. If you're the New Orleans Pelicans, how many more years do you give the Brandon Ingram Zion tandem before breaking it up?
Well, let's take a look at their cap sheet because that'll help guide this answer. And we know Zion's got 5 coming. After this season, Brandon Ingram he's got 2 more years left. So I would say what you do is, obviously the rest of this year is what it is. Next year, you give it a full run next year as much as you can, unless by the trade deadline it's clear something's not working or whatever it is. So I think what you do is you run into that with those guys there. And then what I think you need to look at is after next season, if it's let's say you're in a similar spot where it's, you're still kind of a decent team, but you're down in the, playing range and those kind of things, you have to consider making changes at that point.
Yep.
And I think it's probably Brandon Ingram who goes over Zion, just because you've made the more significant commitment to Zion. And if knock on wood, and who knows if it ever happens, if Zion ever gets healthy, you got to kind of run with him because he's the better player.
Right. And then on top of that, like Zion's value to the Pelicans right now is probably higher than what his trade value is.
Yeah.
So
Yep. Without a doubt.
Yeah, and obviously if he gets into next season and he's playing, well, maybe that changes. But yeah, I do think Brandon Ingram would be the more likely to be moved between those two. Although I think that pairing can work, but they got to be healthy and be on the floor.
Yeah.
And both have missed.
Yeah, I mean, it has worked, right? We've seen it
Yeah.
work pretty well just for very short snippets of that. About the length of one of our average front office shows, I think, is about as long as they stay on the floor together.
That's right. It's been about as long as we saw Harden and Durant and Kyrie together. And one to
and Simmons and Durant and Kyrie.
That's right. And,
yeah.
Realistically, how deep of a run do you expect from the Kings in the postseason? That was a fun Kings-Knicks game.
Yeah,
last night.
It was. Kings are fun, man. They're good. They're not just fun; they're also good.
Yeah. When you've got De'Aaron Fox hitting the shots that he's been hitting, they can be really tough to beat. To me, I think they're a second round out. And I think that their defense ultimately winds up being their undoing. Yeah. But they've been a lot of fun this season. I'm not saying they don't have the upside to go farther. That's just what they feel like to me.
Yeah, they feel a little bit like the Grizzlies did, where it was they kind of made their step forward. They were a nice team, a really fun story. I think they'll be competitive, but I think in the end, whether it's Phoenix, the Clippers, the Warriors, even Dallas or the Lakers, if they get there, I think all those teams, would make it really tough on Sacramento. But they could be like the Hawks from a couple years ago too, where it's like, hey, all of a sudden they're in the conference finals, and we're like, all right, hey, this happened. I wasn't necessarily expecting this.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, certainly could happen. Certainly could happen. Silver said, "What role player has been elevated to superstar status? And if so, can they renegotiate their contract or is it fixed?" So role players who have made the jump to superstar, typically you see that where a guy's opportunity shifts significantly, either via trade or somebody else leaves their team and they get I look at Mikal Bridges, some of the things that he's done with the Nets. Mm-hmm. Recently, he's had some bigger scoring games. Maybe he makes that leap. Not saying he's going to, but just that's the type of situation where a guy makes the jump from being seen as maybe a high level role player and then jumps to being a superstar. It's pretty rare that you see the out of the blue, and even this took a significant shift, but like the Jeremy Lin situation, jumping into being that kind of star role. But renegotiating contracts, no.
That's a whole different thing.
Yeah, that's a difference. That's not a thing in the NBA.
I mean, the only way it is, and we saw it this year, and it was the first time we've seen it in about a decade. Well, not quite a decade, because Robert Covington did it too, but was Miles Turner. And it takes a player has to be extension eligible, has to be done within the context of an extension, and the team has to have cap room. And those things all coming together at the same time, rare. We don't see that very often, that those teams are, or those terms are all taking place at the same time. That's why these are so few and far between. And it's generally with teams that, they're not playoff teams and those kind of things. So it's unlike the NFL, you can't renegotiate. You can't, nobody can, you also can't renegotiate at all to give money back and say, you know what, hey, I want to make sure we get a guy. The closer you get that is what James Harden did, where he opted out and then signed for less money. But that's a different thing entirely.
There's not a situation where a guy can, let's say in the summer, signs a 4-year deal for the mid-level exception, and then that season suddenly becomes a 30-10 guy or something like that.
Sure.
Just goes nuts and becomes a true superstar that season. The guy can't go, well, I've got 3 years left on a contract at the mid-level, but I'm much more valuable than that, so I want more money. Can't do that.
Nope. Yeah, and he can't. People ask this all the time. They're like, what if a guy breaks out 2 years into his rookie season? If it's a first-round player, they have caps. If you decline the rookie scale option for them, you're maxed at paying them that rookie scale option number. So, yeah.
Muffin break. What do you guys think about Hawkeye Technology and the associated automatic analysis out of bounds and goaltending? I'm not super familiar with Hawkeye Technology or what that's all about. Keith, do you have an
Yeah,
idea of what's going on there?
so it's basically replacing Second Spectrum. So
Ah,
Second Spectrum works off a fixed point cameras, where Hawkeye follows. They the way I understand it is that there's a bunch of different cameras that instead of following from a fixed point, they follow the player everywhere they go, and they follow you can train one to follow the ball and those kind of things. So there's a lot of stuff. Teams are going to use this. I think their hope is to get even better data on like how are guys moving, what are their screens like, what are they doing, how fast do they run during games, what does it look like running from offense to defense, and those
mhm.
things you can get from Second Spectrum. It's just a different, and I hesitate because I'm not as super educated about it, so I don't want to say it's better technology, but it seems to be better. I know people in the league are super excited to have this. I don't know what they're going to do with the automatic analysis of out of bounds and goaltending. Trevor, you know Hawkeye because it's one of the things that helps run, again, front office soccer show, helps run VAR.
Right.
That's one of the pieces of technology that helps run that type of work. There, it's also heavily used in tennis for sideline and end line calls and those sorts of things. So I think I don't know that the NBA will go there with it because, excuse me, I just don't think that's where they're headed. But I think it's certainly something that could come in the future, I think. And I think the goaltending, I'm just going to use this question as a backdoor way into something I want to say. We should move to the FIBA goaltending rule where you can just take the ball off the rim.
Yes.
It's so dumb and difficult for the officials. There's still goaltending in FIBA where like you go up and you swat a shot, but if the ball's on the rim, you should be able to take it off. And people think, well, then it's going to hurt the offensive players. It actually helps them more because you eliminate all those offensive goaltends.
Yeah. Yeah. I like that. I like that. I think that's a good idea. Would like to see it. So this person says super chat for Keith's big T-shirt Billie Eilish reference. Keith, I have no idea what he's talking about.
I
Trevor
slipped it
missed it.
in.
If
You
love
said
what you do and do what you love had a face, it would be yours. I don't.
I slipped it in. You said your hat is stylish, and then I said big T-shirt Billie Eilish from it's a song. I don't maybe you don't know. So,
I
but
don't
yeah,
know. I
yeah.
I have not heard of that, but I do not.
See
I
again,
am.
I
I
have an
am.
older kid, so I'm listening
Yeah.
to this stuff in the car all the time. So yeah,
I
I slipped it
am
in. I'm glad
nowhere
somebody
near.
caught that and appreciate it. Thanks, Doctor Shark Monk.
He got it. He got it. I do not listen to anything that's any music that's anywhere near relevant today. Nor am I a very big Billie Eilish fan. I can say that as well. I don't think she's talented and all that, but whisper singing, I don't know, not my thing.
It's not Billie Eilish that sings it though. It's somebody. Now I'm gonna look
See,
bad.
I'm
Somebody else who
I'm
sings
totally
it.
lost when it comes to
Yeah.
this stuff.
Yep. All right, we'll move on. But I'm just glad Dr. Sharkmug caught that
he,
reference because
he
I'm proud of that one.
he got it. He got it.
People also really liked on yesterday's show when I was like, I don't think you get everything right at your work, and I'm like, 'cause you're tweeting at me at 10 o'clock in the morning. A couple people commented about that and thought that was pretty funny. So
that was a good one. Will refs ever be publicly graded by the league? I don't think
yeah, I don't think
publicly.
so.
Like
Yeah,
officials would have a big problem with that, I would think.
yeah, it's I can tell you it is, and there's people have written about this. There's all sorts of stuff out there. Um, you can look this up, just Google it, like referee grading, and all that stuff. And it's very in depth and it's pretty tough on them. And it does impact guys, or I should say guys and girls, postseason assignments and things like that. With this now, you can question because it seems like some guys that nobody likes are still getting major playoff games and finals games and those kind of things, but they are pretty strenuous with the grading system. They grade every single call from every single game,
Hmm,
including non-calls. And there's things where like one of the big things when watching a game, I try to tell people tear your eyes away from the ball once in a while and
yeah.
watch away
Yep.
from the ball. And you'll see there's 9 million things that happen away from the ball that could be called that aren't, things that are called that maybe shouldn't have been. It's just, there's a lot of stuff that happens on every single play in a basketball game.
And it's where this has been my battle for a few years now from, the Lakers having Danny Green, having Alex Caruso. These are the types of players who do a lot of things off ball that maybe don't get noticed. And that's hard to do. It's hard to and I'm not talking about for fouls, I'm talking about just in general. Our eye follows the basketball. Did it go into the hoop or not? Right? That's what we're keeping an eye on. But there's so many things happening off the ball. For referees, they've got to fight that basic, human instinct of what's happening around the ball, because that's really the
Yep.
focal point of the game, right? And they've got to see the stuff that's happening off the ball. As much as we have to say, hey, watch player X off the ball because he's going to do this, this, and this, which really matters, but doesn't show up in the box score or anything. The officials are looking at all of that stuff too, or trying to keep an eye on that stuff. It's not easy. It's not easy because I watched some old games last night from like the early 2000s. There's so much more happening off ball now than there was back
Way
then.
more.
It's
Yeah.
crazy.
Yeah. It was remember what a big deal it was when it was like, man, the Pacers run all these screens for Reggie Miller. And they were like the only team running plays
Yeah.
like that. And then it like turned into like now everybody has at least one, two, three guys they do that for to run them off of maze of screens to get them open. So definitely a different spot.
Who do you guys have as your sixth man of the year? I love your guys' show. I listen to every episode. Keep up the great content. Thanks for adding Front Office Fridays. I appreciate that. Appreciate that. Sixth man of the year.
Well, I mean, Trevor's is Russell Westbrook. We know that. So
Yeah,
that's
it's an automatic.
uh, I mean, call me a homer. It's Malcolm Brogdon for me. He's been incredible, and he's played every single game off the bench. So that's that it. And I realize there are rules on how much a guy can start, but he is. I don't know if people fully realize like just how good he has been this year for the Celtics. He's at 15 points per game. He's shooting 48% from the field, 45% from three, and 88% from the line, and 4.2 rebounds, 3.7 assists, and he's doing it all in 25 minutes a game.
Right now, I'm just looking up the odds of winning sixth man of the year. Emmanuel Quickly is one slot ahead of Malcolm Brogdon.
That's insane.
I am a big Malcolm Brogdon fan. I love his efficiency, and I think that he's great. I'm still mad at how little Boston had to give up to get him. What do
In
you
retrospect, for sure.
what do you think about? Well, I was even mad at the time.
Well, yeah, but it looks even worse now.
Oh yeah,
Right?
absolutely.
Clear.
What do you think about Quickly? Is he a legitimate contender there?
I mean, yes, but I think that is recency bias creeping in a little bit, which
Sure.
does get factored into betting odds. He's had a great season, much better season for him than he's had the last couple of years, even if his numbers aren't super. He's shot better. He's just a more efficient player with a lot of things that he does. But yeah, I kind of maybe I'm biased in the fact too that like let's reward the guy on the better team too.
Mhm.
I think there is if we're gonna break a tie with that, but yeah, I think they're both in position. I'm not gonna scream and yell if Emmanuel quickly wins it by any means.
Yeah. All right, Mike, I'm in agreement. I would pick Brogdon as well right now. Mike said, "Love the show. I listened to it while at work. Do you think Derek
Attaboy.
Fisher will get
Don't
his
do work.
jersey retired?" Good job listening to it at work. Very well
Yep.
done. The West is wide open for taking. I hate injuries. Yes, injuries are terrible and no good, and we need to find a way to turn them off. Derek Fisher get his jersey retired? I don't think so. I think if you start like if you're the Lakers and you start retiring jerseys for guys like Derek Fisher. Derek Fisher's great.
You end up like
Um,
the Celtics.
right. I mean, like what? Then all right. Then you got to retire Robert Ory's jersey. Then you got to retire Rick Fox's jersey. Then you got to retire. I mean, and you just start going back and back and back. Next thing you know, you've got no numbers to choose from. Right. Like that's I look. Fisher's great, but I don't think he's hit that jersey retirement threshold as a Laker.
Yeah, more years than I thought with the Lakers, 12 and a half years, it looks like, by
Mhm.
my quick math here. But a handful of those years, he was, very much a bit player.
Yeah.
So yeah, I'm with you. I don't think so. I think you enjoy, he made clearly a ton of huge shots for the Lakers for sure. But yeah, I don't know that that's a jersey retirement guy. A little weird too. Like it's funny. He was kind of like there for the both like of their good errors recently, right?
Mhm.
Where it was the
Him and
Shaq
Kobe.
Kobe Lakers, and then came back or Brown for the Kobe Paul Gasol Lakers. So and cool, man. Like I really liked that Paul Gasol jersey
Yeah,
retirement
that
ceremony.
was great.
I thought they did a great job with it, and it was. I wish it didn't have to be that way, but it was super moving and touching to see how much he missed that Kobe couldn't be there. Like it was like their bond that they formed in what was not. It wasn't like they were together for like 15 years or anything.
Right.
Like very quickly they came together. That was really cool to see. I really enjoyed that. The Lakers do it, all that stuff. They I mean they should, right? They're in Hollywood, so they ought to be able to produce something good like that. But
Right.
they do a wonderful job with that stuff.
Indeed. Yeah, that was very well done. That was very well done by the Lakers. Kid Compton, what do the Hawks and Heat do after this season?
No,
I mean,
a lot's probably going to depend on what happens in the playoffs, right?
yes, exactly. Exactly. What
Yeah,
what happens from here?
I think Miami is oddly in a rougher spot, despite being the better team, just because that Kyle Lowry deal is something they've got to figure out. They've also got to re-sign Max Strus and Gabe Vincent, who have become very key players for them. They've got Duncan Robinson, so they're just in a really awkward spot, salary-wise, cap-wise. It's just very messy for them. So that's going to be something they're going to work on. Not that the Hawks are in any great place cap-wise, but it's just enough better. We'll see if they finally move John Collins, or does this turn into Quinn Snyder's like, no, I can get these guys going and working. And that's probably, to me, we're probably going to see the Hawks do a little less, because I think they're going to say, we want to see what it looks like with this group under Quinn Snyder, unless these last 20 or so games that he was running the team turned into, all right, this guy cannot play for Quinn Snyder, then we need to make a change.
Right. Yeah. I mean, I really think a lot of it's going to depend on what happens from here on out. What do they do come
Mhm.
playoff time? And then they'll go from there. But yeah, I mean, maybe we finally see John Collins moved. Maybe. Just maybe. The NBA announced a partnership with Sony Sports that will bring Hawkeye Tracking technology to the league
Yeah.
beginning in the 2023-2024 season. Okay.
Yeah. Yeah. And there's articles out there on it where you can learn a little bit more about that.
Yeah. Ryan says John Collins is the new Eric Gordon.
He might be.
The guy who's in trade rumors every year and never gets moved.
Never gets moved, but Eric Gordon finally did get moved
He
this
did
year.
eventually.
Yeah, I
So
think that's true.
So when John Collins is 34, the Hawks will trade him.
That's it. Yep. When he's been there forever, and Trae Young is left, and then come back to play with him again, and all those sorts of things. There's a little bit of a discussion going on of should refs get fined for missing blatant calls? Are players fined for missing wide open layups? Like, no, they shouldn't be. They would get fined if they were violating performance standards as far as walk on the court and throw a player out just because. Like, yeah, that would be a fine. They probably lose their job, to be quite honest, over that.
Mhm.
But they miss calls just like guys miss shots. No one is finding Grant Williams because he missed 2 free throws that could have won a game after saying he was going to make them both. Like, it happens, right? So no, they don't get fined for that. Somebody asked too, why not adding a 4th ref for games? I mean, what's that going to change? Like, I don't know. We see everything anyway eventually, and they've got all these. They have referees that are watching these games independently for things like, oh, that 2 should have been a 3, and that was a good change to make, to not have to review those live. But yeah, I don't know. I'm not sure they go that direction.
I mean, what if that 4th official was really just covering the television side, just covering the monitor, like, and just doing the reviews and things like that? And maybe there's something you could do to speed up reviews there.
I would
if you
like
had
to
somebody
see
who's
reviews,
designated.
taken out of the guys on the floor's hands, because if they're calling for a review, someone's already looked at it 50 times, and just let them tell them, like, yeah, here's what happened, and go.
Right.
And then
And I
they're not
also think,
swayed by the crowd or anything, right? If someone looked at it strictly through the video, sitting in what is it, Secaucus, right, where they
yeah,
always go to, if that person just sitting there and then says, "Yep, this is what I saw, and this is what the call is going to be. It takes the crowd potential influence out of it and all that stuff, and just go. But
I also think you take out you make a call and then you have to go back and overturn your own call. You have to admit you're wrong right there on that's most referees I don't think have too big of a problem with it, but
sure.
I mean, it was a big talking point in the NFL. Like, when you've got something like pass interference, which you can call or not call on most plays, what referee is going to overturn their own decision? You know what I mean? So
yeah, none of
that's
them I think have an issue when it's like, oh yeah, all right, this player tipped it out of bounds, and I thought it went
right.
off the other guy. That is what it is, right? That's what it is. But it's hey, I made a judgment that was a block, unless I really see something where which is the way the process is supposed to work, unless I really see something on my own call that says, all right, no, it was a charge, then maybe you change it up. But yeah, overall though, the review it takes way too long. It's super annoying. I'm glad they continue to make it better, but it's still not better enough.
Jalen said, should the Lakers try to get Ime Udoka? No, they've got Darvin. They're not. They give him a 4-year deal. They're not moving on from him at this point.
Yeah, I think. Yeah, I mean, yeah, it's. I mean, I get it, but yeah, you're not getting rid of Darvin Ham. Like it's. I mean, they're 2 games under 500 with a roster that's been a mess for the vast majority of the season. I don't know. I'm not as close to it too as you guys are, so I don't see every single thing that would frustrate me with him. But I wouldn't.
Yeah. If the Rockets move away from Steven Silas, who are some candidates they should consider? What moves do you think the Knicks need to make after the season? How hard would it be to move RJ Barrett? Candidates, if the Rockets move on, you need to find a coach that has the ability to really develop young players. That's where the Rockets are now. If James Harden suddenly joins the Rockets, that changes things very quickly. But assuming that doesn't happen, which I don't know, maybe it will, but assuming it doesn't happen, you have to find a good player development coach and find somebody who's available and wants to go join what's been a little bit of a mess in terms of the rebuild there in Houston.
If we continue on the path they're on of development, Kenny Atkinson would probably be tops on my list to put with that young roster. If they go the Harden route, then you're looking at insert former head coach X. Go get somebody who's been there, done that, because you're trying to win right away. For the back half, after the season for the Knicks, get Josh Hart signed. I think that's the first one. He's probably definitely going to opt out. So get him signed to a long-term contract, keep him in the fold, see what you can do with the Evan Fournier contract. If you can move on from that, how hard would it be to move RJ Barrett? Man, that's tough because I liked RJ Barrett a lot. I know some people were like, I can't believe they gave him that contract. I didn't have any real issue with it, but I also thought there was a chance we would see him this year start to make steps forward to maybe being an all-star player. And now I'm just not as sold that's going to happen. So you're probably in a spot where it's better to just ride it out. Because what you don't want to do is move off him now. And then he does develop into that guy. Because then all of a sudden that's not going to be a good thing for you. So, it's just tough. Like these last couple games where Jalen Brunson was out, I wanted to see more from him and it just didn't happen. So I don't know. I kind of think now he may not have it in him.
Yeah, that's got to be the concern for the Knicks moving forward, especially after what they paid him. But I'm probably not making like huge moves unless something happens between now and the playoffs and something it's just clear that you're really lacking. You can add some little pieces around the margins, but I think you've got something here. They've been playing great basketball, so I don't think at the moment you're doing anything major to this team. You want to just kind of let them grow with this group. Roberto said, since we're talking about football, do you guys support any teams in the English Premier League?
I do. Leeds.
You do.
Leeds is my team. Yep.
I will watch games when they're on, but I don't have a particular team that I follow. I do follow MLS a bit more just because that's kind of what I grew up on and everything. And I know, look, people say, oh, it's a MLS, it's inferior. And all that. Yeah, I know, I understand. But I mean, they got me as a fan when I was a kid, and so I pay more attention to that than the Premier League. But it is some great stuff just to flip on at any given moment and watch a game.
Yeah, I really fell into it just kind of happenstance of, wow, this is on like every Saturday and Sunday morning before like we get into other stuff. And I was like, this is great. And I picked Leeds solely because I watched that Amazon documentary, which was really, really well done. Even if you're not a soccer fan, super good. I'd love for the NBA to do something like that where it's like full access to them. And I really got attached to their players. That was in just in case anybody thinks it's because everybody calls them Leeds United States of America. It was before they had Tyler Adams, Brendan Aronson, and Weston McKinney. I just got super attached to the guys that are on that team, and I try to watch every game when I can. I'm not always home on Saturday and Sunday mornings, so we're usually at a soccer field ourselves. But it's that's the team I pull for. So let's stay out of relegation. Come on.
That's right.
Come on, Leeds. Let's go marching on together.
Trevor, the Lakers badly need a big, but who? And then he recommends Boogie. Yeah, I mean, with the news yesterday, Mo Bamba. 4 weeks, which pretty much means the season. He is, or the regular season anyway. High ankle sprain; those can be a mess to deal with. So, I think, and I talked about this a little bit for Lakers Nation yesterday, but the bigger question, like we tend to jump immediately into, oh, okay, well, this guy's on the market, that guy. It's mostly all guys who were good 5 years ago or whatever, and just because that's who's available right now, right? That's the reality. People are talking Dwight, Boogie Cousins, Hassan Whiteside, right, on and on and on. Derek Favors, right, LaMarcus Aldridge, but people immediately jump into skill set. Does this fit? Does that fit? They need a rim protector, so it's Whiteside. They need rebounds, Dwight. Who's in shape? None of these guys are playing in the league right now. Who is ready to step on the floor? Cross that hurdle first, then and you have to, of course, decide. Yes, they want to get another big. Then you start looking at, okay, of the players that are ready to step on the floor right now, this skill set versus that skill set. This guy's more ready than that guy, whatever. But these are all guys that aren't playing in the NBA right now. You need to know who's ready to step onto the floor at the moment, and that will whittle things down a bit.
Yeah, there is so much of who can step in and actually play, because you're at a point where anybody you bring in, they need to go right now where the Lakers are at. You can't be, all right, we'll give you 3 weeks, because at 3 weeks it's over. Right. So I mean, they had Cousins in, it was a couple months ago now for a workout. So you bring a couple guys through, see what it looks like. But you're probably more looking, this would have been a spot where maybe I would have seen, had he not caught on with the Wizards, you might have seen Jay Huff on a call up, from the G League to come up, and that could have been somebody. But that's probably more what you're looking at. I like that before he did the super chat. Mustafi, I'm gonna say, said, "I love you, trailer." I assume that was probably "I love you, Trevor," but maybe it's like trailer again. He's like thinks I'm like tractor trailer. So either way, we win.
That could be, or maybe there was a really great trailer that just released for a new Marvel movie or something.
That's true. Yeah, could be. I don't think so. I think I would have seen that on Twitter, but I don't know. We'll see.
Esham 976. Should the Pistons move on from Dwayne Casey? Without Cade Cunningham this year, I have a hard time with that.
Yeah, I'm with you too. I think he probably gets one more year with that, but we're getting close. We're not far away now. It is getting close on that one. So it's we'll see. But it's probably another year, and let's move forward. Clearly the plan for the Pistons is next year is going to be their step forward season, start really competing, really trying to push forward. That I think was the hope this year, but then Cunningham got hurt and things kind of became a mess for them. But didn't trade Bogdanovich, didn't trade Burks. You kind of put yourself in a position where, all right, let's go. Let's move this forward. And even after, keeping those guys, still the Pistons, I've got them projected $28 million in cap space. So pretty good stuff. And that's with another what's likely to be a very high draft pick. So I think they're in a good spot.
Yeah, they've got some room to do something this summer. We'll see what they ultimately wind up doing. But I think you give him another chance to see what he can do with a true full team. That their season got really kind of torn up by that injury to Cade Cunningham. So hopefully he can be back next year and healthy, and we'll see what they do in the draft. And then off they go. They could be an interesting team next year. Dan the Man said, need a new Marvel movie to clear the air from that Ant-Man 3 trash. Did you see Ant-Man 3, Keith?
I did. I
didn't
hate it. I
didn't hate
it. I like all this stuff. So it's I'm not. Yeah, I thought it was fine. I think people want everything to be end game level and that kind of level of movie, and they're not all going to be that. So I
Difficult
don't
to
know.
do
It
that.
was fine. It's in the bottom end of Marvel movies. I'll say that, but I don't know. I still think even low end MCU Marvel movies are better than the a lot of other stuff that's out there. So
Yeah.
I didn't mind spending my money on the tickets.
All right. I have not seen it yet, but again, it's something I'll
That's the
have to.
most
Although
controversial thing I said all day.
I know, so some people who are upset with that. But I just got around like a couple weeks ago to watching Wakanda Forever when it finally came out on streaming.
Yeah,
Um, I got to
that
watch
was
that,
good.
so that
Yeah,
was pretty good. It was
yeah,
pretty
I
good.
really
Like,
liked it.
I thought Black Panther was better, but it was
Yeah, I
decent.
agree with that. Yeah, I think. Well, I mean, the first original Black Panther that's one of the best ones going. Like
Sure.
I don't know. This is not the day. Well, God, we'll be here till 5 o'clock if we go down this path.
All right, let's do this. We'll do the last one here. What sports analyst do you enjoy the most? JJ Shannon, Nick Wright. Also, did you watch Creed 3? Um, so I'll say I don't watch a lot of that stuff. Like
I don't
like
watch any
First
of it.
Take and things like that. Like it was on the other day at the doctor's office. It was on, and I was stuck there for a little while, and so I was just watching it. And to me, I don't like all the yelling, guys just arguing points back and forth constantly. I think there's merit to it. I'm not saying it's a bad thing, but it feels so produced. It feels like it's all just kind of artificial.
Yep.
That just doesn't sit well with me. It's just not my cup of tea. And I understand why people like it. I understand why the ratings do well and all that. It's not my thing. So I don't watch a whole lot of that stuff. I will watch, of course, like Zach Lowe whenever his stuff comes on. But I listen to more podcasts than anything else than actually watch the produced televised stuff because I feel like it goes further in depth, which is more what I'm looking for than the stuff that gets put on television, with the exception of some things.
Yeah, if and I assume JJ is JJ Reddick, and I like him quite a
Yeah,
bit. I
yeah.
like him on games. I like his
Uh-huh.
podcast. I like when he pops in stuff. But though I don't watch any of those morning shows. I don't. I
Yeah.
think they're all playing characters. I don't think most of them believe any of the stuff that they're saying. It's the opposite of what you and I, when we talked about this and basically said we'll never do that kind of stuff here. And
Yeah.
sometimes when we agree, we're like, or we agreed, we're not going to take, as somebody says, I need you to yell at each other every now and then. It makes me laugh. But yeah, I'm not there. But yeah, I mean, yeah. And if someone wanted to pay us what those guys are getting paid for me to come in here and be like, you know what I think, Giannis stinks. Like,
Yeah.
well, I mean, I can be bought. There are numbers I can be bought at. I'm not. My morals are not that strong. But yeah, it's no, I don't watch any of that stuff. I don't enjoy any of it. Creed 3, I've not seen it. That's probably one I'm gonna have to wait till it pops, whatever streaming service it pops
Yeah.
on. It's hard this time of year to get out to the movies, and I reserve that to try to see the stuff that I want. So yeah, but yeah,
Yeah.
notice me
I have
sitting
not.
back. I love it. That makes me laugh. D.A. Baracus. One of these like B.A. Baracus. Did
There
you
you
watch
go.
the A-Team? Were you an
Oh
A-Team
yeah.
kid? Okay.
Yep.
All right.
Yep.
Cool.
I love it when a plan comes together.
Yeah, there it
Um
is. I love that.
oh man. All right. Let's wrap things up there. People talking about us potentially screaming at each other. Yeah, it's just look again, I don't want to take anything away from the people who like that stuff or the people who produce that kind of stuff. Like if you like it,
Sure.
that's
Yeah.
fantastic.
Yep.
And
This is
there's merit
all
to it.
entertainment. If you enjoy it and you enjoy getting mad, like, yeah, go. So
Yeah. That's fine.
I
It's
like
just not
this
my
guy.
style.
Dan also said, imagine Heath yelling, "It's my turn. You had your chance." That would probably go the other way with the amount I talk compared to Trevor on this show.
Oh man. Could you like what if we did a show where we just tried to do a show in that style
Oh man, maybe we'll do that over the summer. That can be
over
like
the
an NBA
summer when
August
we're
show,
really
yeah.
bored?
I have a different idea. I'll tell you my other idea,
Okay.
but I'm not going to share it here. I'll share it with you when we're off.
Okay. All right, everybody. We're going to wrap things up there. Thank you so much for joining us here for Front Office Friday. Always enjoy getting to talk to people live on the show. Make sure you are subscribing to the NBA Front Office Show on our YouTube channel. And of course, go check out the podcast feed, Apple Podcast, Spotify, wherever it is that you listen to podcasts. You can find the show. In fact, subscribe both places, the YouTube channel and the podcast feed. Definitely a way to help out the show. Till next time, everybody. See ya and stay safe.